We would like to shift the gears now and to invite now our last speaker, who is Dr. Muhammad Umair Sial. Dr. Umair is an assistant professor of entomology at the University of Agriculture, Faisalabad. He did his PhD from the Chinese Academy of Agriculture Sciences and specializes in the fields of insect molecular biology and genetics, insecticide, biochemical and molecular detoxification mechanisms, and molecular diagnostics of insecticide resistance management for insect pests. So I now invite Dr. Umair for his presentation on second part of this webinar, that is pesticide pollution and its impact on biodiversity. Dr. Umair, please go ahead.
So before starting the presentation in formal way, I would like to pay my gratitude to the organizing committee, particularly Dr. Tariq Aziz, Dr. Masood Iqbal, and Dr. Praveen, and specifically Dr. Ahmed Raza for inviting me to be a part of this seminar. And it's a very pleasure to be here today with all of you. Let's begin. Well, I'll be talking about the pesticide pollution and its impact on biodiversity, because it is a very comprehensive topic and it is a very challenging issue right now these days, because to feed the maximum population of the world, we need to apply the pesticides, because it gives the abrupt control and it is the cheapest source for the farmers, and we do application of pesticides to control the insect pest and to enhance the crop yield as well. And we already know that pesticide is a very key agricultural input, and it helps to protect the seeds and safeguard crops like from unwanted plants, insects, bacteria, fungi, and rodents. All are included in the pest category, because it damages the crop, and when the crops are damaged, and we get the reduced production of the crop. And as well as at the same time, pesticide application helps to safeguard the crops, but at the same time, pesticides can have very negative environmental impacts. And the most important thing is, it has a great impact on the biodiversity. And biodiversity is decreasing day by day due to the unjudicious application of pesticides, and due to this phenomena, our yield is reducing, our environment is polluting day by day. And there are several categories of pesticide, because pesticide is a comprehensive term, and under the pesticide there are several classifications, like insecticides is one of the pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, nematicides, as well as the rodenticides. Each category is specifically to hit or to kill the particular organism or particular individual. So there are several categories which I already taught, like pesticides include the insecticides, it includes the fungicides as well as herbicides. And here in this slide there are several persistent organic pollutants which persist in the environment for a long term, and these products, particularly organocolorine insecticides category, has been among this category. There are several insecticides which are banned all over the world because of the long persistence in the environment, long residual effects in the environment. So if we talk about the statistics data which is reported by the FAO in 2022, according to the report, the global level total pesticide use in agriculture remains stable in 2020, like at 2.7 million tons of active ingredients. And if we talk about the application of pesticides per area of cropland, which was 1.8 kg per hectare. So the average total pesticide use has been increased in the most recent decade by nearly 50% compared to the 1990s, with pesticide use per area of cropland increasing from 1.2 to 1.8. So the area has been increased. And if we talk about the pesticide usage all over the world, particularly the top countries, including the United States of America and the Brazil, as well as the China. And the interesting thing, before this data, China was leading country. China was at the first rank. But interestingly, China usage of pesticide has been reduced in China. There could be several reasons, and maybe they are going towards the green revolution technology. They are applying the biopesticides application. So it is very interesting. And the least application and the least pesticide use country is the Italy. As well as if we talk about the per hectare of cropland pesticide usage, so Brazil is the top of the list. And if we talk about the Asia continent, and among the Asia, we can see that the Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea is using more pesticide per hectare of cropland. While we can see that Pakistan is not in that category. But according to this study, we still are using maximum number of applications of pesticides, which is very alarming situation in recent days. So if we talk about the pesticides pollution, it has several impacts on the health, on the economies, as well as the ecosystem, including the water, soil, air, and the most important thing is the biodiversity impact. So if we talk about the health issue, exposure can cause fertility, reproductive issues, particularly have the negative impact on the pregnant women, as well as the diabetes issues, obesity, and some diseases like Parkinson's, cancers, asthma, and depression are the consequences of the pesticide pollution. As well as if we talk about the economies, because pesticides cause illness and injury resulting in lost work days. So exploitative markets keep farmers on the pesticide treadmills. So when we use the pesticides repeated application, so crop develop resistant, and incorrect use affects our crop yield. As well as in the ecosystem, runoff contaminates surface and groundwater, soil microorganisms and earthworms are poisoned, affecting soil fertility. Drift and volatilization contaminates air, rain, fog, and snow issues. So biodiversity, which is the main topic of this presentation, it has been linked to declines in bees. Our pollinator is declining, our beneficial insects are declining, birds, mammals, aquatic animals, and the most important thing, the non-target plants. When we apply the pesticides in the field, just 1% pesticides reach to the target area. Remaining pesticides go to the environment, and it has very negative impacts in the surrounding area. So this is a picture when we drop the pesticides on the farmland. So it goes to the three most important process, like some pesticides are absorbed by the crops, and then it vaporizes to the atmosphere, and then after the vaporization, then again it comes back to the ground as a acid rain. And the second is some pesticides are leached down to root zone, and ultimately it goes to the water bodies. So it destroys the aquaculture, it destroys the fish culture, and then it have the negative impacts on the human health. Like in the picture, you can see that carcinogenic, cytotoxic effects, genotoxic effects, and ultimately our respiratory system is distorted, reproductive system, cardiovascular system, and there are several unknown diseases could be happened in the human body. So the interesting thing about the pesticide is the Silent Spring. I'm very impressed with this book, and Silent Spring is a book. Basically, it was published in 1962. It discussed about the pesticide unjudicious usage, pesticides health effects and environmental impacts in a very beautiful way. You know, spring could never be a silent, but the title of this book is Silent Spring, means there is no bird chirping, there is no whispering, there is no pure environment, there is no pure air. So Rachel Carson was the author of this book, and she published a book in 1962, and she plague issue was spreading due to the infestation of fleas. And so to control the fleas, there was unjudicious application of pesticides, and to control these issues at that time, pesticides application was done. And Rachel Carson, the author of this book, She addresses all the issues of pesticides application, and still now all the things have been very clearly addressed in this book. And amount of land treated with pesticides has been increased, even more than 60% has been reported, and the toxicity of pesticide has increased over time, so that less chemical is required to do the same job. As an example, some neonicotinoid insecticides are 10,000 times more toxic than the most notorious insecticide in history, which is DDT, particularly organochlorine. And right now, neonicotinoid is one of the deadliest insecticides, because it is killing the pollinators, it is killing all the beneficial insects. So in some countries, this pesticide has been banned, but still in our area, we are using this pesticide. So the area of land being treated with pesticide has been risen, and the number of pesticides application has been grown up. And due to this phenomena, due to this behavior, because we are applying repeated application of pesticides, what actually farmers is doing in the field, when a particular insecticide with a particular dose is not giving the proper control, so what actually the farmer do, it increases the doses of pesticide, which is not advisable, because the pesticide has been resistant to that particular insect. So the resistance phenomena is very notorious phenomena in the open land, and due to this phenomena, pesticides application has been increased, and it has a very drastic effect on the farmland. It has reduced the beneficial insects, it has reduced the natural enemies as well, have the negative effects on the sprayer, and there are several effects as well. So what actually the impact happens on the biodiversity? There is no doubt biodiversity is losing day by day because of the application of pesticides and judicious use of pesticide. So if we talk about the plants, particularly nitrogen fixation is hindered by the application of pesticides in soil. And several reports have been shown that application of DDT and pentachlorophenol has been present in plants, which is responsible for poor plant root development, as well as shoot yellowing is the consequence, and reduced plant growth overall is the consequence of the biodiversity effect of pesticides. And if we talk about the pollinators, pesticides can kill bees and strongly implicated to pollinator decline, the loss of species that pollinates plants, including through the mechanism of CCD. Colony collapse disorder is one of the mechanism which is happening due to the application of pesticides. Because if CCD happen, then there is no colony of honeybee. So it has a very drastic impact on the honeybee, and as well as due to the application of pesticides, bees foraging behavior is disturbed. They have impaired navigation. So all these problems are linked with the application of pesticides. If we consider the birds, so according to the study and the report of US Fish and Wildlife Service estimates that approximately 72 million birds has been killed by pesticides application in the United States, and interestingly, in the each year it is reporting, and and it is very alarming situation. In the birds, particularly eagles, has been killed in several in maximum number, and in aquatic life, pesticide surface runoff into rivers and streams can be highly lethal to aquatic life, sometimes killing all the fish in the particular system. In the aquatic life, the residues of organophosphates, pyrethroids, and particularly herbicides residues are reported, and including this, glyphosate application is top of the list. And in the amphibians, particularly frogs and tadpoles, numbers has been declined in a significant way, and their reproductive behavior has been disturbed, and their overall reproduction and development has been disturbed because of the application of pesticides. And it is a very clear impact on the humans, so no need to speak on the large way, because today we are facing several illness. Even we don't know the proper management practices, proper control practices to manage this particular diseases in the human. So all these are due to the application of pesticides. We should mitigate the application of pesticides. We should apply the pesticides on the basis of our requirement. So what is the solution? What is the way out? There could be several solutions, but in my presentation I summarized that we should focus on the IPM program, Integrated Pest Management Program, and in the IPM program we shall consider the cultural practices, we should consider the physical and mechanical practices, and then we should go towards the biological application, and at the end we should focus the chemical. And in the chemical practice we first shall focus on the soft chemistry insecticides, and then to further conventional insecticides. So in the IPM program, the first one is the monitoring, because if you want to reduce the application of pesticides, so you have to consider the phenomena of monitoring. You have to consider the detection mechanism, because when you apply the pesticides randomly, so the pest gets the phenomena of resistance. So if we could detect the resistance at the earliest, so we could reduce the number of applications of pesticides, and we can save the environment from the pesticides pollution. So this biodiversity loss and pesticide pollution, we have worked on this, and I am going to present my data to keep this phenomena, because insecticide resistance has the negative impacts on because insecticide resistance and the negative impacts of chemical pesticides on the environment and human health are a growing concern. So highlighting the need for sustainable pest management practices, we should go towards the biopesticides application, we should go towards the registered insecticides, and there should be proper farmers training for IPM adoption. So let me talk about the monitoring. In this monitoring procedure, we first detect the problem, we first detect the resistance, because resistance is linked with the heredity material, and which leads to the mutation detection, because there is a phenomenon of SNP in the molecular biological mechanism. Single nucleotide polymorphism leads to the mutation, and that mutation is responsible for the resistance. I worked on the isothermal amplification. Basically, it is a molecular technique. In this technique, we could detect the resistance mutation in the particular insect, and we can warn the insect, we can warn the farmer community, we can warn the resistance action community that this particular insecticide has been has developed resistance to this insect. So no need to apply this particular insecticide, and even no need to apply the maximum dose of this pesticide. We shall focus, or we shall jump to another pesticide. So in this way we can reduce the number of applications and we can save the environment. So one of the isothermal application which I adopted is the LAMP, known as loop mediated isothermal amplification. Is a very cheapest way, is a very specific, and in the characteristic we could say very rapid, cost effective, and a very simple method to adopt, and it highly specifies the target DNA, the space where the mutation is actually happening. So when we do apply this particular method, just on the basis of the color change, we could recommend the farmers that this pest has developed the resistance against this insecticide. So no need to use this particular insecticide. So in my methodology, which I devised, and even I have the patent regarding this methodology, regarding this particular protocol. We just get the population from the field. We do the DNA extraction and then LAMP development even in the field, and then we detect the resistance mutation just in the 30 minutes on the base of the color change, and then we timely monitor the resistance phenomena. Like this is my result. These are my results that first three tubes disclosing the different color, which is disclosing that these three individuals has developed particular resistance against neonicotinoid insecticides. So on these results, on these bases, we could advise the resistance action committee of the local area that this insecticide not to be used again or even with the more dosage, because this insecticide has developed resistance against this pest. So need to jump to another pesticide, need to jump to another pesticide classification. So it is a very interesting methodology, because in this methodology we don't need a very sophisticated equipment like PCR thermocycler equipment. We just do the experiment in the field, and just in 30 minutes we can get the results, and we can inform the farmer. So from my side, if we if we have to protect our biodiversity, if we have to protect our environment, we should reduce the application of pesticides. We should adopt the IPM program in a proper way, as well as we should adopt such kind of molecular techniques which could be done in the field, and which could inform the farmers in a very proper time, and so that we could adopt another alternative approaches of control. So this is my email address. If anybody has any question or any queries, so don't hesitate.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Umair Sial, for your detailed and enlightening talk on pesticide use and its effects on biodiversity, human health, and also for explaining your experimental approach. Really impressive. At the end of this webinar, we have a few questions. Then I would request Dr. Sajjad Raza to respond to a question from participant that how would you compare nitrogen acidification induced pH change in Pakistani soils where soil pH is high and reduction in pH is desirable? So what nitrogen fertilizers must be preferred in Pakistani soils to minimize nitrogen losses and improve nitrogen use efficiency? So your take on it, Dr. Sajjad, please.
Yes, this is an interesting question. So because the soils in Pakistan, they are alkaline, pH is above 8, and in these soils, even if we add too much of the acidified fertilizers, it's not going to change the pH drastically. I mean, within few years, because this happens because these soils have calcium carbonate, and the calcium carbonate has the strongest buffering system in soils. So if you keep on adding protons, it still will keep the pH at the balanced stage, because soils have the buffering capacity. So, but when we add fertilizers like acidified fertilizer, for example, ammonium sulfate, ammonium phosphate, and urea too, this can decrease pH like around where we add fertilizer, not all over the soils, like in the hotspot region where we add fertilizer. So based on this, if we add if we use ammonium sulfate or ammonium phosphate and urea, this can decrease pH around the rhizosphere, and with this way plant can uptake more nutrients and can just get benefit from the limited acidified environment.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Sajjad, for explaining. There's another question that is related to nutrient pollution. Dr. Sajjad or Dr. Yusong Gang can respond, please. How do you see the impact of CPAC on nitrogen emissions?
Yeah, This is another good question. I mean, the industrialization in any form is going to just increase the anthropogenic activities. So, CPEC coming in, there'll be more budget coming in. There'll be, the roads, the infrastructure, the use of fossil fuels. Eventually, they will increase nitrous oxide or nitrogen gases emissions also. And with CPEC and its focus on agriculture, there'll be regions that are currently not in a cropland use. With CPEC, they can come under agriculture, and with this will bring the fertilizer use in those regions. And with this, because of the climate and the nature of the fertilizer used in our country, I think this will bring more problems to our nitrogen issues if we don't use it in an efficient way.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Sajjad Raza, for being with us and for responding to our questions.